Einstein once said, "Any fool can know. The point is to understand." Today we are living in an era of information abundance. We all have access to more information than we can reasonably use. But as Einstein perfectly pointed out, do you really understand the information you consume? Is your brain just passively consuming information, or is it cultivating knowledge? Information becomes individual knowledge when it is accepted and retained by an individual as being a proper understanding of what is true and provides a valid interpretation of reality. In simple words, information becomes knowledge when we make our meaning out of it. Otherwise, too much information can lead to confusion and make us less attentive. So there is a difference between passively consuming information and cultivating knowledge. A knowledgeable person is respected wherever he goes. But the question is, how does that person start building his knowledge base? What is the starting point? How does he cultivate knowledge and expands his influence? It seems there are 5 phases of life involved in the process of gaining the ultimate wisdom. Every great person you look up to, everyone that inspires you, every wise person you know goes through these 5 phases of life. In the first 2 phases, a person understands the problem. In the third phase, he decides to stand up and take responsibility. In the fourth phase, there are systems that can filter out the unwanted noise. In the fifth phase, he gains wisdom, becomes a wise person capable of passing good judgments and making the right decisions. In the last 2.5 years, I have managed to enter into the fourth phase. In this video, I am gonna share my experiences and the lessons I learned in those years. Also, we will find out what phase are you in right now. Hi guys, myself Prateek and you're watching Eclectic. Here we talk about our past, present and future. And today let me present you with the study I have done on the lives of some of the wisest people I know. Phase 1. A victim of the passive life. Today, majority of people have lost control over their choices and decisions. They have fallen into the trap of passivity. Scrolling through your social media feed or using your smartphones without consciously thinking about its harmful effect and the amount of time you are wasting on it, that's the sign of living a passive life. Letting others decide your destiny, that's life in passivity. Acceptance of what happens without active response or resistance, that's life in passivity. Letting external events dictate your life, that's the sign of living a passive life. Everyone these days is engaged in passively consuming information. We are the generation that wants to stay updated on every current issue happening around us. Think about how much time you give to watching news, debates and TV shows, and what does it give back?
Political earthquakes in Europe continue to rumble, this time in Italy and Spain.
Overall, Europe's traditional centrist coalition lost its majority, while far-right and far-left populist parties made gains.
We're seeing these violent images. It appears to be a dumpster that's being pushed around. That chaos in Chicago, violent clashes between protesters and supporters.
Democracy is facing a crisis of confidence.
You give your attention, energy, time and emotional reactions all for the information that you can rarely utilize. The average global consumer spends 82 hours per week consuming information via televisions, smartphones and laptops. Assuming an average of 7 hours of sleep per night, this means that 69% of our waking hours are engaged in consuming information. Now the question is, are we consuming relevant information that matters to us? Answering this question is important because knowledge can only be created if you apply the information you have to the things that matter. Information becomes knowledge when you use that information in real life. Otherwise, storing random information in here is just a waste of your brain's storage capacity. If you cannot use the information you have, you cannot build knowledge. So either you can focus on the things you can actually do something about, or you can add to the stress in your life by worrying about the things you have no control over. Once you accept your limits, you can go beyond them. That is exactly what you will learn once you stop living a passive life, and then you will enter into the phase 2. Phase 2. The dichotomy of control. 2000 years ago, one particularly influential Stoic philosopher wrote, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own." In this age of information abundance and overload, those who get ahead will be the folks who figure out what to leave out so they can concentrate on what's really important to them. Stephen Covey, in his book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, articulates this same point by distinguishing between our circle of concern, things we care about but can't control, and our circle of influence, things we care about and can impact. The idea is that you should be seeking out relevant, useful information that you will apply to your life far more often than you let random information interrupt you. To make it more clear to you, let's define the 3 areas of your life: what we can control, what we can influence, and what concerns us. The circle of control is anything that relates directly to you. Situation where you influence the outcome, like the skills you build, the projects you create, or the habits you engage in. Focusing on your circle of control means consuming the information that improves your overall personality and helps you in your career. Remember, your attention is a valuable and limited resource. You should guard it as such. Circle of influence are the things that concern you, that you can do something about. For example, if your family is going through financial crisis, you can help your family by earning money. At your workplace, you can help your team members and company by doing your best work. These are the things you can influence by your actions. The circle of concern includes the wide range of concerns you have in the world, including health, family, finances, the economy, national debt, climate change, global warming, political scandals, etc. If the leader of your country makes bad decisions, it is going to affect your country and eventually you. These are the things that can impact you directly or indirectly. But the problem is you can't really do anything about them. Everything you include inside this circle is a concern. The challenge with the circle of concern is you start to realize that some of the things you find yourself concerned about are outside of your control and some are inside your realm of control. For example, you may be concerned about the economy, climate change, or the ongoing pandemic. However, can you really do anything about it? Only the influential people who possess adequate knowledge on such issues can do something about it. And today, you and I are here to understand how those people become influential. Common people like us cannot control the economy or a global pandemic, and when we cannot control the external events, we tend to react aggressively. Actions like hoarding medicines and healthcare essentials that can be used to treat people in need during a pandemic is an example of reactive decisions people make. If you buy more medicines than you need and stuff them somewhere, you are not helping anyone. As we react, we tend to focus on the circle of concern, which depletes our energy because we have no control over it. The energy focused on the circle of concern is negative. If you focus on the circle of concern and neglect the circle of influence, eventually the circle of influence will get smaller. This will add to the feelings of stress and helplessness because you cannot change anything in the circle of concern. Once you understand this dichotomy of control, you enter the phase 3, individual responsibility. If you keep focusing on improving the things that are in your circle of control, your work, career, relationships, eventually your circle of influence will expand. I am a social media influencer who makes YouTube videos. How can I gain more knowledge and expand my circle of influence? I can worry about manipulating the YouTube algorithm, about which I know very little, or I can invest my time and energy in making good videos. The more I make good videos, the more my channel will grow and my influence will expand. Look, understanding YouTube algorithm and search engine optimization is good, but I cannot control them. They keep changing all the time. I will have to keep trying forever. And after trying a lot, even if I get it right and my videos start appearing in search results, what happens if people don't like them? They simply vanish. All my energy spent on understanding the YouTube algorithm is simply wasted, and that's how people become frustrated. Therefore, only by working in my circle of control, that is creating good content, I will be able to expand my circle of influence. For that, I will have to consume information that helps me to write good scripts and make good videos. If I do that, I will be able to apply that information to something real. And when that happens, the process of building knowledge gets started. I will gain more knowledge about things such as writing, editing, shooting, and other stuff. Proactive people focus their efforts on their circle of influence and control. Nowadays, we see young people are concerned about climate change. They protest, hold big rallies and all. But that is unlikely to change anything. 2 years ago, even I was concerned about it. But instead of passively consuming information related to the climate change, I decided to start a research project on the energy of the 21st century. I did not follow any self-proclaimed environmentalist or listen to any politician who claims to be concerned about the environment. I just sat down, made a list of research institutes and books related to energy. I studied them, separated facts from fiction, wrote down my conclusions, and created 2 documentaries based on those conclusions. In those videos, I explained the history of energy and pointed out the limitations of each energy source and its future potential. I read books written by Vaclav Smil, a Canadian scientist and one of the favorite authors of Bill Gates. He says shifts in energy systems have historically been a slow process, particularly when coupled with long-term infrastructure. After creating those documentaries, I realized that the world's energy problem can only be solved if everyone starts taking individual responsibility for it. Otherwise, the transition in energy systems has always been a slow process because we cannot dismantle the entire existing energy producing ecosystem and replace it with a new one overnight. So what can we do here? We can install solar panels on our roofs and explain solar energy's advantages to our neighbors. Even if one of your neighbors follows your footsteps, that is more than enough. His actions will influence someone else, and that someone else will influence someone else. This will create a chain of positive events that will eventually lead us to a broad-scale social change. And once something becomes popular, people just adapt it on a very large scale. Look how much knowledge I gained after focusing on what I can do. After accepting my individual responsibility, I understood everything about the energy from its origin to its possible future. That's how you stack up the knowledge. The change must start with you. But hey, sometimes there are exceptions. Sometimes you have to stand up against your government. But remember this, never let the collective responsibility override your individual responsibility. Always look for opportunities where you can do something personally. Because when you act upon the information you have, you gain knowledge. You understand if it works or not. Taking responsibility leads to action, and action leads to knowledge. Phase 4. Systems to filter out the unwanted noise. After understanding the problem and realizing your individual responsibility, you need systems to filter out the unwanted information, the unwanted noise. I looked for such a system everywhere but could not find any. There are systems that can help you with the decision making, but there are none that can help you to consume relevant information. In the end, I created a framework on my own and called it a goal-directed information framework. It is based on a simple philosophy that every piece of information you consume must push you towards your goal. That framework can help you to accomplish a broad range of goals with very few activities. I have already explained that framework in one of my videos. Go check that video out. Don't miss it. That video is the accumulation of all that I have learned in the past 2.5 years. Now I am still in the phase 4. I don't consider myself to be a wise person. Between phase 4 and phase 5, there is a huge space where you have to learn a lot, where you have to experience a lot. You need to figure out how can you retain more of what you read, how can you keep your brain healthy, how can you retrain and rewire it to reinvent your life and explore new ways of thinking. And also things like effective ways of reading books. To help you as well as myself, I will study hard and read more books to find answers to these questions. And gradually through experience, if I ever understand what true wisdom is, I will upload a video on the phase 5 explaining how to gain wisdom. I will probably look like a fool when I make that video because a wise author once said, wisdom cannot be imparted. The wisdom that a wise man attempts to impart always sounds like foolishness to people. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. One can find it, live it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it.